You think you are grieving a person. You aren't. You are grieving a future that never existed. You are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the highlight reel of a relationship that was mostly commercials. You convince yourself this pain is proof of how deep your connection was. It isn't. This isn't love. This is withdrawal. You are a drug addict crash landing from a chemical high, and your brain is screaming at you to text them for one last hit. Welcome to the Detox. Chapter 1. The Casino Effect. Intermittent Reinforcement. Why is it harder to detach from the person who treated you like garbage than the person who was boring but kind? Common sense, you should hate them. Biology says you should be obsessed. This is called intermittent reinforcement. B.F. Skinner discovered this with rats. If you give a rat a pellet every time it presses a lever, it presses it casually. But if you give the pellet randomly, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The rat becomes manic. It will press the lever until it starves to death. Your relationship was the lever. The text back after 6 hours of silence, that was the pellet. The one good weekend after a month of fighting, that was the jackpot. You weren't in a partnership. You were trapped in a casino. You are addicted to the unpredictability. You mistake the anxiety of will they, won't they for passion. It isn't passion. It is a nervous system dysregulation that you have been trained to crave. Chapter 2. The Biological Hijack. The Withdrawal. Let's look at the fMRI scans. Science has proven that the brain of a heartbroken person looks identical to the brain of a cocaine addict going through withdrawal. When you were with them, your brain was bathed in a cocktail of dopamine and oxytocin. Now, the supply has been cut. Your brain is not sad, it is panicking. The region of your brain that processes physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex, is lighting up. That heaviness in your chest? That nausea? It is real. But here is the trap. Your brain thinks the source of the pain, them, is also the cure. It tries to trick you. It tells you to seek closure. It tells you to check their story just once. This is not your intuition speaking. This is the addiction begging for a microdose. Every time you stalk their profile, you reset the withdrawal clock. You are scratching a wound that is trying to bleed out so it can finally heal. Chapter 3. The Museum of Potential. Sunk cost. You aren't in love with who they are. You are in love with who they could be if they just got their act together. You have built a museum in your head dedicated to their potential. You walk through the halls, looking at the exhibits. The time they were vulnerable. The time they promised to change. The version of them that existed for 2 weeks in July. You ignore the reality, the neglect, the disrespect, the inconsistency, because you have invested too much time to walk away now. Economics calls this the sunk cost fallacy. You think that because you spent 3 years building a house on quicksand, you have to keep living in it. You don't. The time is gone. It is non-refundable. Spending more time trying to fix a bad investment doesn't make it a good investment. It just makes you bankrupt. You are clinging to a ghost because you are terrified of the empty space that will exist when you finally let go. Chapter 4. The Dopamine Desert. HOMEOSTASIS. Here is the part nobody warns you about. Peace is going to feel like boredom. Your nervous system has adapted to chaos. If your relationship was a roller coaster of high highs and devastating lows, your baseline for stimulation is broken. You are used to adrenal fatigue. You are used to checking your phone every 4 minutes. You are used to the fight. When you finally detach, the silence hits you. It is deafening. You interpret this silence as wrong. You think if I loved them, I wouldn't feel this empty. Wrong. That emptiness is not love. It is the absence of cortisol. Your body is trying to return to homeostasis. You are walking through the dopamine desert. There is no water here, no drama, no texts to analyze, no fights to win. It is flat, gray, and boring. And because you are an addict, you want to run back to the chaos just to feel something. Do not run. The boredom is not a sign that you made a mistake. It is the only place where your brain can actually rewire itself to enjoy normal, healthy, boring love again. Chapter 5. The Zeigarnik Effect. The Open Loop. I just need closure. I just need to say one last thing. No, you don't. You are suffering from the Zeigarnik effect. In the 1920s, psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik noticed something strange. Waiters could remember complex orders perfectly until the food was served. The second the task was finished, their brains deleted the information instantly. But if the order was interrupted, it stuck in their memory like glue. The human brain hates open loops. It obsessively holds onto unfinished tasks because your relationship ended without a logical conclusion, because they ghosted or lied or it just fell apart. Your brain has flagged it as an open loop. You are replaying arguments in the shower, not because you miss them, but because your brain is trying to solve the puzzle so it can finally delete the file. Here is the fix. You have to manually close the loop. You will never get the apology. You will never get the explanation that makes it make sense. You have to declare the task complete without their input. The story doesn't end when they say it does. It ends when you stop writing the sequel. Chapter 6. The Phantom Limb. Neural Pathways. You drive past their coffee shop and your stomach drops. You hear a song and you can smell their hoodie. You think this is a sign from the universe. It isn't. It is Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together, wire together. For months or years, you physically wired this person into your daily existence. Saturday morning was wired to their name. Good news was wired to calling them. These are physical superhighways in your brain. Just because they're gone doesn't mean the roads disappear. You are experiencing a phantom limb. Amputees feel genuine pain in legs that are no longer there because the nerves are still firing. You are feeling love for a person who is no longer there because the neural pathway is still hot. This is not destiny. It is biology. The only way to remove the pathway is pruning. You have to stop driving on that road. Every time you engage with the memory, you reinforce the highway. Every time you let the thought pass without acting on it, the weeds grow back over the road. Let the weeds grow. Chapter 7. The Shrinking Self. Self-expansion theory. You aren't just missing them. You are missing the part of you that only existed when you were with them. Psychology calls this self-expansion theory. When you fall in love, your self-concept literally expands. You take on their hobbies, their friends, their jokes, their way of speaking. Your Venn diagrams overlap until I becomes we. When they leave, you don't just lose a partner. You lose a massive chunk of your own identity. You feel smaller. You feel like a ghost in your own life because the infrastructure of your personality was built on a foundation that just collapsed. The panic you feel isn't heartbreak. It is an identity crisis. You are looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger. Good. That stranger is a blank canvas. Do not try to find yourself again. You are not lost. You are just under construction. Chapter 8. The Anti-Fragile Heart. The Upgrade. Most people think the goal of healing is resilience, bouncing back to who you were before. That is aiming too low. You don't want to be who you were before. That version of you is the one who tolerated the disrespect in the first place. Nassim Taleb coined the concept of anti-fragility. Fragile things break under stress. Glass. Resilient things resist stress. A rock. Anti-fragile things get stronger because of stress. Muscle. Your heart is a muscle. It has been torn. This is not a tragedy. This is hypertrophy. You are currently in the recovery window. If you sit in bed and rot, you atrophy. But if you use this pain, if you channel this massive radioactive energy into the gym, into your career, into a new skill, you don't just heal, you evolve. You become something that the old version of you couldn't even comprehend. Stop trying to survive the breakup. Use it. Chapter 9. The Exit Strategy. The Funeral for the Living. How do you finally let go? You bury them. Not physically, psychologically. The problem is that they are still alive. They are walking around, posting stories, existing. Your brain cannot process grief for someone who is still texting you. So you have to perform a ritual. Tonight, turn off your phone. Sit in a dark room. Visualize the version of them that loved you, the version you are holding on to. Now, visualize putting that version in a casket. Lower it into the ground. Throw the dirt on top. Say the words, "That version of you is dead, and I am not a necromancer." Stand up. Walk out of the room. The person walking around in the real world, that is just a stranger wearing the face of someone you used to know. The ghost is gone. You are not waiting for them to come back. You are waiting for yourself to return, and you are finally here,